All right, everybody. I just want to say good afternoon and welcome to Falcassen's webinar on year-end wage and service provider reporting. My name is Stephanie Turner, and today I'm going to briefly overview forms that you will need to have for your year-end filing. We're going to look at some due dates you should be aware of, as well as common mistakes and questions that we've encountered over the years. Now, if you have any questions, please note there's a question box on your right. We'll try to address as many as possible at the end of our presentation. If for some reason we're not able to get to those questions, we will definitely contact you afterwards, however. Now, I want everyone to know that a lot of the information that we're going to cover today is truly a part of your software, but we really wanted to take the time to drive home the importance of verifying all of the information that's entered in there. Another item to take home today is this is the end of the year. This is the perfect time to have your employees go in and update their W-4 forms for the upcoming years. And this is going to help for those who maybe didn't have enough withheld in the current year. It just gives them the opportunity to make that adjustment early on. So the first thing that we're going to cover today is going to be on wage reporting. There are several forms that you need to file at year end. The most common of these forms are the following: the Federal Form W-2, also known as the Wage and Tax Statement, the Form W-3, which is the transmittal of wage and tax statements, as well as the State Form W-3. So to create these forms, you need to assemble several vital pieces of information. This includes a listing of all of your employees for the year, their current addresses, and I say current because that's very important, and their Social Security numbers as well. Now, for each employee, you'll need the year-end total amount for their wages, Medicare wages, Social Security wages. You're also going to need amounts that were withheld for federal taxes, Social Security taxes, Medicare taxes, and if there were any state or local taxes withheld. Their total wages by state and locality are also necessary in order for you to complete the form properly. In addition to those numbers, you'll also be required to know if they participated in a retirement plan, if the company purchased life insurance for the employee, and if so, what that total actually was, if they have any tips to report, and if there are any dependent care benefits. So please note that any personal use of an employer-owned vehicle also should be captured on this form. You need to report if there are any moving expenses paid by the employer, and if the employee elected to defer any of their pay to retirement plans, such as a 401k or a 403b. The last piece of information that you'll need is if the employer provided health insurance. This only applies to employers that have 50 or more employees. It's important to note that for those shareholders that have a 2% or more share in the S corporation, health insurance absolutely must be included in the federal and state wages. Now, these wages are not subject to FICA, but they are subject to FUTA and SUTA. When added on at the end of the year, these numbers also need to be included in the numbers that are reported on the Form 941 in the fourth quarter as well. So make certain that piece is captured too. Now, the last piece of information that you'll need for these forms is your employer identification number and any state account numbers. Again, we want to make certain that these numbers are correct, so verify that there's no transposition or anything along those lines. There are two different due dates for these forms that we've been talking about. The Form W-2s, they're due to employees by January the 31st of 2013. The remaining forms are not due until February the 28th of 2013. The Social Security Administration should receive Form W-3 and the copy A of the employee's W-2. It's important to note that employers with more than 250 W-2s are required to e-file. So less than 250, not so, but more than 250, you need to be e-filing them. And any state Form W-3 should also be to the appropriate state office by the state. What we're going to touch on next are several common mistakes that we see at Falcassen every year that are really worth bringing to your guys' attention. The first one is inconsistent reporting of numbers between the total of all the 941 filings for each quarter and the amount reported on the annual Form W-3. The total should be consistent for the following: wages and tips, Social Security wages, Medicare wages, and federal income tax withheld. Another common mistake that we see is sending the year-end documents to the wrong government office. So make certain you're reading where to file section of your forms carefully. The W-3 and the W-2 should actually be sent to the Social Security Administration as opposed to the IRS. Another item is double-checking the Social Security numbers and making certain they're entered correctly. We also want to double-check that the names match Social Security cards. That's something many employers don't realize, but it truly is something we want to make certain agrees. Another item is making certain that the retirement plan box is checked in the W-2. You'll see here on the form it's box 13 if your employee was an active participant in a retirement plan. Now, if you have any employee copies of the W-2 that were not able to be delivered to the employees, you should hang on to those for about 4 years in-house. With the W-2s due to the employee by January the 31st and the W-2s and W-3s not being due until February the 28th, there's time to correct any errors that are discovered by your employees prior to sending the forms to the Social Security Administration. Now, believe you me, you definitely would rather catch this now as opposed to preparing W-2C, which is the correction form. It just saves a lot of time for everyone involved and makes your life a little easier. Now, in addition to reporting your employee information, certain vendor transactions need to be reported. So when a business has paid certain amounts to an unincorporated entity, such as an individual, partnership, or an LLC, the IRS requires businesses to file the Form 1099 for miscellaneous income. We've seen some common types of payments which small businesses make that require this form are the following. We have the rent and royalty payments, rent and royalty payments and prizes, awards and winnings, fees to subcontractors or directors, and other non-employee payments for services rendered, proceeds paid to attorneys, payments to fishing boat crews by the owner-operators, including payments of proceeds from the sale of catch. Now, there are some other items to note about the 1099 miscellaneous form. Here, payments that are required to be reported are generally for services, not goods. The 1099 should be to the payee by January the 31st and the IRS by February the 28th. Now, note that state due dates may definitely vary. Corporate and partnership tax returns, as well as individual tax returns, Schedule C and F have specific questions regarding whether the entity needed to file the Form 1099 miscellaneous, and if that filing occurred, you need to make sure that you mark the appropriate answers. Now, there are certain pieces of information you'll need to obtain to properly fill out this Form 1099 miscellaneous. We, again, want to make certain that we have the correct full name of the business or the individual receiving the payment. We want to double check that you've recorded the correct EIN, and also known as the employer identification number. So those are the big pieces we want to look through there. Now, as a best practice, Falk Hasson recommends a couple of the following things. We really think that obtaining a Form W-9 prior to sending the vendor payment for their services. Working this into your business practices assures that you have all the correct information when it comes time to file your 1099 miscellaneous, and you're not running around at the last minute trying to get these items captured. That covers our presentation for the most part. I wanted to give an opportunity for questions. It doesn't look like we had any questions, but I'll give a couple minutes to see if there's anything that comes up or if there's anything else. With that being said, you also have my contact name and number, Stephanie Turner, my email address. So please feel free at any time to give me a call or shoot me an email and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. So I'll just give it a couple minutes and see if anybody has any questions. I also want to thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar on year-end reporting. This is actually a part of a series of webinars that Falk Hasson is offering throughout the year. So be sure to join us as we bring many more critical presentations to you regarding the running of your business without taking up too much time in your day. Thanks very much.